morning, Anis.
Okay, wonderful. I think that we will wait for Dr. Fitria to let us know when to start. Let's see.
Agnes, Fitria, nice to meet you.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you.
So much. So I will. Halo?
Ini belum connect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well, but there is an echo.
Yeah, there's.
Mhm. Maybe I will also switch off my audio. Let's see, maybe it helps.
So first.
Please let me know if I should share my presentation, because I can also do it from my computer if it's easier.
We are doing hybrid, so we will be starting the conference like in 2 minutes. I will ask first our dean to give a speech, but just a minute, yeah. Okay.
Halo, ya, oke. Halo, assalamualaikum. The sound is on. Rupiah, suara ada? My sound is on or no? Rupiah?
Yes, I can hear you, but can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Not very loud, but I can hear something.
Great, thank you. So, please.
Cik. Oke, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Miss Agnieszka Alter Castillo from the Faculty of Political Science International, University of Warsaw. Honorable Miss Fitria, Head of Department of Legal Science in Faculty of Syrian Law. Ladies and gentlemen, all of the audience, both in the room of the faculty or via Zoom. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to everyone who involved in organizing this significant international seminar, particularly to Agnieszka for sharing her experience and insight, and also special thanks to Mr. Fitria for preparing this event. The Faculty of Sharia and Law is one of the institutions who is committed to addressing the issues of refugees. Several research in this issue has been organized by the lecture of the faculty. This commitment is grounded in several considerations. One, refugees is a humanitarian problem faced globally and become shared responsibility. Two, resolving the refugees problem must be done comprehensively from various files and with multiple approaches. And three, we know that from the data show us that many refugees come from the Muslim countries, such as Syria, Palestine, and other. In the last, I would like to invite all stakeholders to collaborate in finding solution to the refugees. Let's work together towards a common goal. And I hope you enjoy this seminar. And I hope to Miss Agnieszka, we can continue collaborate with other program to the next time, inshallah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Give applause to our dean. Thank you so much. So okay, I will let the student to continue our meeting.
Okay, thank you for Professor Maksum for the keynote speech. And then let us open the ceremony. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya. Assalatu wassalamun ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain, amma ba'du.
First and foremost, let us begin by expressing our gratitude to the presence of the Almighty God, who has bestowed His blessings and guidance, allowing us to gather in this beautiful day.
Salawat and salam always due to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, who guided us from times of darkness to the bright and illuminated era we find ourselves in today.
The Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Sharia and Law, Professor Dr. Muhammad Maksum, SH, MA, MDC, along with his esteemed colleagues.
Our respected speakers today at today's international seminar, Ms. Agnieszka Olter Castillo. And to all the esteemed guests, consisting of lecturers and students who have joined us either in the theater and Zoom meeting this afternoon.
Welcome to all attendees to the international seminar with the theme
Local Integration of Refugees in America and Latin America. These things, we are true to have you join us here this afternoon. My name is Rangga Satrio Anamtaputra. Together, we will be your masters of ceremony for today's event. Let us work together to ensure this seminar runs smoothly and provides valuable insights. On this occasion, we, as the masters of ceremony, will be guiding this event. Now, please allow us to present the agenda for today. The first one is opening.
The second one is keynote speech.
The third one is public lecture.
Fourth one is certificate awarding.
And the fifth one is closing.
Before we begin today's event, let us first recite Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the next agenda, following that, we proceed to the main session of today's event, the public lecture with our speakers, Ms. Agnieszka Olter Castillo, Faculty of Political Science and International, University of Warsaw, Poland.
Today's public lecture will be moderated by Mrs. Fitria, Head of the Law Study Program, Faculty of Sharia and Law, UIN Jakarta. The place and times is yours.
Thank you, Isabella. So, Sabil now in charge for the conference. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Very nice, and it's a very big pleasure for me to moderate this seminar. So, Agnieszka, we have online and also offline participants here with us. There are some lecturers and also like around 100 students in our room. So they are very excited to listen to your, speech. And I would like first to have some words before, handing this conference to you. So as we know that there are people who are unfortunate in this world, who are forcibly displaced due to the, persecution they endure. So within the refugee studies, as we know, there are three type of long-term solutions to make the, to make the people, the refugees living in dignity. First is resettlement, secondly is repatriation, and local integration. As we know that resettlement needs the political will of the governments. As today's UNHCR, UN body handling the refugee, noted that only around 1.5% can be resettled. So this will not be an ideal solution of the permanent solution. So secondly, repatriation, meaning that sending back to their country of residence. And this is also an unrealistic solution because as many of the countries refugees production are in conflict now. And in ASEAN context, for example. Sorry, can you hear? Sorry, Agnes, can you hear me? And
Yes, I can hear.
okay, and as we know that there's also a unrealistic solution, as I said before, that in ASEAN context, for example, the non-interference principles that is thereby the states of ASEAN's members will hinders the organization to give a binding solution or resolution to stop the atrocities happening in Myanmar. So we are very much counted on the local integration. So local integration, as Jacobson says, that it is forbidden solution. Why? Because as we know that the solution has been like impossible in many countries, and as we know that many hosting countries are non-state refugee countries like Indonesia. And however, the practice in several countries is that the solution is still possible. And to discuss the issue, we will learn about the pathways that the Latin American countries have been doing, and knowing also about the challenge they are facing. So we are very happy and very fortunate here through the Zoom online, we have Ms. Agnieszka to discuss these issues of the local integration in American Latin. And I would like also to read, her short bio. So Ms. Agnieszka is a PhD candidate in international economic relations, in political science and public administration at University of Warsaw, Poland. So it's thousands miles away from here. And from 2018 and 2020, she worked as assistant professor at the University of Lima, Peru, in the double degree program with the University of London, UK. And also she also conducted classes in diverse Latin American universities. Within Claudia Coelho participated in the speakers in conference in Belgium, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, Poland, and the United States. So I think it's very sure that her experience are very rich, and we are not. You cannot wait to listen to Agnieszka to give her presentations. So I think you are very fluent in Spanish, in English, and now in English, you present your presentation. Okay, the time is yours, please.
Thank you so much. First of all, can you hear me well?
Here, you can hear, we can hear very well here.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Dean. Thank you, Dr. Fitria. Thank you, the organizers, everyone who was involved in making possible this event. I'm really very honored to be here with you and to be able to share some of my experiences from the research that we've been making first in Peru, Lima, and then the research continued here in Poland at the University of Warsaw. Let me maybe share with you my presentation, and I would be grateful if you could confirm if you can see the slides well. Okay, you can see everything. Wonderful. Thank you also for the introduction. Yes, I was very close to the topic of Venezuelans. In general, we talk here about mixed migration flow because there are migrants, there are also refugees. But in many cases, it's very difficult to say who is really just a mere economic migrant, because as you will see during this presentation, many of the people who left Venezuela during the last decade did it in order to survive. So when we talk about economic migrants, we talk about people who choose to go to another country, to study, to work. But in case of Venezuelans, even though they might not have formally the status of refugee, many of them actually needed, because they didn't have any other solution, they needed to escape Venezuela. The material that I will present with you today, it's quite rich. We made at least 120 interviews for this project. However, earlier in Lima, we made also more than 30 interviews. We surveyed for this particular project more than 500 participants, but also before in Lima, it was more than 1,000 participants. So I would like today to talk about the situation of local integration from different angles, from different perspectives. And this both quantitative and qualitative material, I think it will be allowing us to do so. So let me share with you some basic facts about this situation. So those numbers are from 2015, when the displacement on the bigger scale started. So according to the platform R4V, which is a common platform coordinated by International Organization for Migration, IOM, and UNHCR, which is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, already over 7.8 million Venezuelans left their country. So we really do talk about very large scale crisis. Maybe in the international arena, we do not discuss that much about this situation. At least here in Europe, we discuss a lot about the situation of Ukrainians related to the invasion, Russian invasion from 2022. We discuss a lot about Syrian situation. We have many Syrians, many of them were able to start working here and also incorporate themselves to the system. However, we don't talk much about the situation in Latin America, and really the numbers, I think, speak for themselves. So out of this high number of individuals, as much as 1.6 million have settled in Peru. So this is absolutely unprecedented situation in the country. Peru is a developing country, and as a country of emigration historically, has never a situation in which so many foreigners, so many citizens of other country come to Peru, and in that short period of time. So this influx of Venezuelan citizens was really a big challenge. It was a big challenge for the country, and it was also a big challenge for the city. Lima, capital of Peru, absorbed as much as 1.1 million in a very fast time. So we can imagine the burden for the public services, for housing, for also labor market that wasn't prepared to absorb so many people. Also, public infrastructure, local governance systems, they all saw themselves quite overburned. So we can see here the population breakdown. This data is not just for Peru, this is overall data, where we can see the legal categories within Venezuelan population in general, including asylum seekers and recognized refugees, but we can observe that this number is really quite low. And as I will show you, we know that the majority of Venezuelans who left their country did it because they were forced to do so. They weren't able to get enough money to survive. They weren't able to get medicines that they needed. They weren't able to go to the hospital when it's needed. So even though only the small fraction of Venezuelans have received formal refugee status, for instance, in Peru, there were nearly 500,000 of Venezuelans who were asylum seekers, and the majority of them remain asylum seekers because only 5,000 actually been granted and recognized as refugees. So even though the number is vast, similar situation we experience in other countries in Latin America and other host countries. So this is a really significant gap in the number of individuals seeking international protection and those that actually received this recognition. So this means that the majority are not covered by any comprehensive protection frameworks, and actually the role of local government, but also non-governmental actors is really relevant. So to provide you some context, this is data from Andrés Bello Catholic University in Venezuela. And this university remains one of really few institutions in the country which are not directly aligned with government propaganda. So many media, so many even universities are unfortunately aligned with the propaganda of the government, of quite authoritarian governments. But here we can assume that this data really talks about the reality. So in 2020, more than 96% of Venezuelans were living in poverty, and almost 80% of them in extreme poverty. Nearly 60% of the population was affected by malnutrition, and access to healthcare, essential medicines deteriorated in a very severe way. Although the comprehensive data about this particular issue is not publicly available. So in this context of really widespread deprivation, over 80% of people who left did it out of necessity, seeking the ways to survive. So as of May 2024, we have almost 8 million displaced Venezuelans. Over 90% of them remained in the countries in the region, in Latin American and Caribbean countries. Colombia is by far the first country, as you can see here in the graph, that absorbed the highest number, 2.8 million, followed by Peru with 166 million. This is particularly interesting because Peru doesn't even have a border with Venezuela. Colombia is a country that has direct border, so it's more natural. Many people who escape the severe conditions in their countries escape to the countries that are nearby. But in this case, it's a particular case of Peru that because basically of open door policies of the president Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, it was in the years 2016, 2018, allowed so many people to enter, and then started the process of joining by other members of families. Then we have countries like Brazil, big country, however, it didn't absorb so many Venezuelan migrants. Chile, Ecuador, smaller numbers. So we can see that even countries in the region, they were very careful with opening the doors towards Venezuelans. However, according to the international law, they are obliged to do so because these people really escape the situation that they cannot survive in their country. So this highly regional concentration has placed immense pressure on national systems of these developing countries. Here in Lima, as I was mentioning, the vast majority entered the capital. Unfortunately, many settled in overcrowding conditions in suburbs of Lima. Lima, just to give you a context, has 1/3 of all citizens of Peru. So out of 32 million citizens, we have around 10, almost 11 when we talk about metropolitan Lima that live in a capital. So there's a huge concentration of people and also even bigger challenges related with the migration. So in this context, I was trying to show you a little bit the situation in Venezuela and the numbers first. We ask ourselves several questions, first at the University of Lima, and then at the University of Krakow, Krakow University of Economics in the project Miklakas that finished after 3 years just the last month. And also in my thesis, I'm asking myself similar questions. What are the barriers for Venezuelans to integrate into Peruvian society? What are the main facilitators for them to, in the main domains of integration, which are labor, housing, and health? And how do Venezuelans take advantage of the given possibilities to create their coping and adaptation strategies to overcome these barriers? And also, what are the aspirations of the Venezuelans for the future? What they aspire to do, whether they want to stay in Peru, whether they want to move to other countries in the region or other more advanced developed countries, or return to Venezuela. So here we talk about the integration. I think it's very important to mention that the integration is always a two-way process. So for a successful integration, we need an active and conscious participation of two sides. On one side, we've got the migrants and refugees that need to show the openness and actively work in order to get integrated to the host society. But on the other hand, we also have the necessity for active participation of the host society. They need also to show the effort, show openness in this new situation. Thus also helping the migrants and refugees to integrate. It's always a two-way process. We cannot forget about this. So in this study, by purpose, we made this survey for both sides, both for Venezuelan migrants and refugees, and on the other hand, for their Peruvian neighbors, in order to capture really this situation holistically. And specifically for this part of the project, we conducted 130 interviews, including 30 interviews with Venezuelan migrants in Peru, 30 with their Peruvian neighbors, 30 interviews with the families of Venezuelans in Venezuela, and also 30 with Venezuelan migrants and refugees in Europe in order to capture the broader perspective. We also conducted non-participatory observation and surveyed more than 500 individuals. So we use these mixed methods in order to validate and better contextualize our insights. Now, just a few words about migration policy timeline, because I think it's also crucial if we want to understand what happened and how the integration has been progressing. We need to understand the policy response towards this unprecedented influx. So as I was mentioning, the years 2016, 2018, we've got technocrat and very progressive president, Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, who marked this period by this open door policy, by very humanitarian approach. So during his presidency, he introduced several very useful tools, like for instance, temporary stay permits for Venezuelans, which allow them to access public services. It was very highly applauded, not only in in Latin American countries, but by wider international community. For instance, in the United States, in Canada. However, just in 2018, we have transitioned towards Martin Vizcarra's government, when all restrictions has started. Controls began to tighten, and this trend continued during the, not only continued, but I think it also was each time more restrictive under the administration of Pedro Castillo and then Dina Boluarte, which is the president of Peru right now. So issues like increasing securitization, visa restrictions, the politicization of migration became very prominent, and not just media, but also politicians very openly started to have this negative discourse towards migrants and refugees from Venezuela. This compounded by additional challenges, namely political instability in Peru. So over the last decade, there were as many as 8 presidents. There was as many as 8 presidents in Peru. I mentioned just few of them who remained in power for a longer time, but actually the shifts were and still are quite often. So this doesn't allow the country for any continuity of the response in the case of migration policy. While Peru adopted national migration policy for the years 2017 and 2025, which we may think it's something positive, because this policy wasn't updated for almost 20 years before, we have several scholars and experts who really highlight the huge gap that exists between the political discourse between the national migration policy and its actual implementation. So although the policy framework presents quite a progressive rights-based vision aligned pretty much with international norms, in practice, the migration governance in Peru has often been very reactive, inconsistent, with a lot of ad hoc solutions. And it really wasn't characterized by longer-term approach. So Blowin, for instance, one of the most prominent scholars that researched this issue, say that this disconnect has been contributed to this lack of continuity of politicians. And as a consequence, migrants and refugees face legal uncertainty, weak institutional coordination, and in practice, very uneven access to rights, even though they should be able to access basic services. In reality, it's not necessarily like this. There were also 2 comprehensive surveys in Peru made by Peruvian National Institute of Statistics and Informatics. And I think it's very useful data because it shows us a broad situation of Venezuelans in Peru. And the data from 2022 is really striking. It showed us that more than 35% of Venezuelans lacked legal status. 82 of them were of working age. So we talked in the majority of the cases about young people. The majority of them were working, so more than 90% were working. However, the vast majority without any contracts, so without any security and stability in their jobs. What is also striking here is that more than 46% of Venezuelans in Peru had actually tertiary education. So these were highly educated people, and actually the average education for this group of people was actually much higher than for the citizens of Peru. However, only around 3% of them were able to recognize their diploma, their certifications and their diploma. And why is that? Because this was a very complicated process. This was costly process. So many, they try to survive in Peru on a daily basis. So they are not able to gather the economic resources in order to make this diploma validation, diploma recognition. So I think it illustrates these high barriers that Venezuelans face in Peru. But also, on the other hand, it shows us a lot of potential that this population has for the development of the country in case of their successful integration. And this is our data from our survey. And we asked about how easy or difficult it was for you to access different aspects of daily life. And we realized here that this basic issue of processing necessary documents was the most difficult. It was a lengthy procedure and it's also costly procedure. However, it shouldn't be. And also access to labor market was particularly problematic. Managing health-related issues as well. It was challenging, and I think that this visual also reinforces the gap between policy on paper and practice on the ground. So let me now review these particular aspects that are relevant for the integration of migrants and refugees. So first we have labor markets. When it comes to barriers, there are several. We can begin with highlighting that the Peruvian labor market by itself is highly informal. So in general, in Peru, more than 75% of people work without any contract, work informally. So in this context, Venezuelans who enter the labor market, were exposed also to this situation. So weak protection and also quite exploitative conditions of work. Then we have, of course, the lack of recognition of the diplomas that results in many individuals who are highly skilled, highly educated, taking just the first available job. So we had the situation in which people who were studying and preparing for their profession for long years, like doctors, like lawyers, are working in very basic jobs. They're taxi drivers. They very frequently also go towards entrepreneurship. They open their small shops. They open their beauty centers. So absolutely every work is important. Absolutely every work can be dignifying. However, in this case, we can see huge shock, not just for these individuals, but also the lack of taking advantage of this potential. So we can talk about this brain waste, right? Another critical issue is xenophobia and discrimination in the workplace. So many individuals really on a daily basis experience xenophobia based on their nationality, discrimination in general from the Peruvian society. We asked both experts and Venezuelan migrants and refugees about the situation, and they really described many vulnerabilities, both for documented and undocumented people. So not necessarily formal status in the country, not necessarily documentation allowed people to feel safe, and they were still exposed to many vulnerabilities and discrimination, for instance. So I think this phrase describes interestingly the situation. Let me read it. In Peru, Venezuelan people face discrimination, marginalization, and exclusion in their workplace. They're often pushed into low-wage, precarious jobs, almost akin to free labor. When it comes to job opportunities and promotions, Venezuelan individuals are typically overlooked. Additionally, they received very low pay and are often prioritized for roles that experience significant exploitation. So the takeaway here is that improving this local integration requires not only legal and institutional support, but also labor market policies that promote non-discrimination, credential recognition, fast track for credential recognition, and inclusive employment pathways. Okay, let me now pass to the next issue that is quite complicated also for Venezuelans in Peru, which is related with healthcare. So this slide highlights the healthcare access challenges. Although now Peru's legal framework refers to health as a fundamental right for all, in practice, access to public healthcare is very limited. It's really far from being universal. In fact, the guarantee for access for healthcare services is just given to some individuals, children under 5 years old, and pregnant women, regardless of their nationality. But in reality, when the person goes to the hospital, goes to the clinic, the staff frequently doesn't know about this right, and they're not admitted. So beyond administrative issues, there are also financial barriers. So theoretically, the healthcare is available for all, but many essential treatments, medication, and tests are not included and must be paid out of the pocket of the people. And this is something that is really rarely affordable for migrants and refugees that are working on a daily basis for very low wages. And also, one more time, the issue of social discrimination and exclusion is evident here. Let me now also quote this individual that talked about her experiences. If you go to health center and they see that you are Venezuelan, the first thing they say is, we don't have appointments, even though they do. And even when we are enrolled in CIS, which is the program that ensure the coverage of health services, there are still many procedures and medicines that are not covered. You have to pay. We don't have the money. So this testimony underscores the disconnect between formal rights and everyday experiences. Even if someone is enrolled in the system, many migrants, refugees struggle to access the care they need. This is another challenge to access the housing. We can see quite illustrative chart here that shows us the housing situation with an overwhelming more than 95% of people reporting that they live in rented accommodations. So this suggests us strong reliance on private rental markets, almost no help from the part of the government in this case when it comes to housing. These people do not have a contract, one more time, not only in labor market, but also here in housing. So they're exposed to very precarious conditions, to overcrowding conditions. We know that many families live together in the same flat. So we may have flat of 100 square meters when 5, 6 entire families live, each family in one room. These overcrowding conditions also are related with lack of security for children, for instance. So in many cases, parents are going out during the day for work and children are staying at home by themselves. So they're exposed to very risky situations here. In many cases, they live in substandard housing conditions, in unfinished or informal constructions. And one of our interviewees described it in that way. The Venezuelan population lives in our crowded conditions. Many times, several families live in the same house, rented from a Peruvian person who owns the building. Often, an entire family lives in one room. These overcrowding conditions put the safety of children and adolescents at risk, as they share a single bathroom with families that do not know each other. The children are often left alone because the parents work, and this also puts the little ones at risk. So we saw many barriers for successful integration. Now we have several actors that provide support in this case, starting from governmental support. We know that there is very limited involvement of the governmental actors in supporting the integration of Venezuelan migrants. And although initially in the years 2016-18, Peru received international prize and recognition for its open door policy, then the situation started to change. So this long-term integration really has remained quite weak. This frequent political turnover didn't help, and consequent lack of continuity in migration policies didn't help the longer-term approach towards Venezuelans. In many cases, it's not because of the lack of the will, it's because of the lack of resources, capacity of local governments. However, there are some noble programs, noble exceptions, and municipal exceptions of, for instance, districts and municipalities of San Juan de Lurigancho, San Martin de Porres, Surquillo is another example that is really northworthy, where at least partially some integrational programs and practices have been introduced when it comes to labor issues, but also social issues, organizing events in which Peruvians and Venezuelans were able to share, were able to build something together, starting, for instance, from cuisine, which is something that relates really strongly to both cultures. There are new mixes, new plates that were developed. And this is something that really may seem like a superficial example, but it unites people. It allows them for the social integration. And in this context, we also have support from international and intergovernmental organizations and bodies like UNHCR, IOM, UNICEF, that is focused on children, ILO, that is focused on labor issues. And they are really filling these critical gaps in the sense that they provide documentation assistance, they provide integration support, services for children. Frequently, they provide psychological support, because we need to remember that many of these individuals were exposed to very harsh conditions. Many of them came by foot, walking, very long distance. In case of many of them, it was a trip that took more than 1 week. With small children, it was a very difficult trip. They were exposed to discrimination, xenophobia. So this psychological support sometimes remains a very important factor. And we have examples of vocational training. For instance, the European Union and GIZ from the German government provides this type of training, allowing for better labor integration. And we have, the support from civil society and in general non-governmental actors, which was quite recognized as well and quite important. They were able to provide legal support and counseling, help migrants with administrative procedures, including here also recognitions of diplomas, but still, as I was mentioning, it's a tiny percentage of people who are able to do so. They offer financial support, sometimes a seed capital for entrepreneur activity, so for their small companies. They cover costs for regularizing legal status. And also, in some cases, they allow migrants and refugees to participate in decision-making bodies, not directly, but representing them. So we have this example of the Commission for Migrants and Refugees in the Peruvian Ministry of Foreign Affairs that allows for the participation of the representatives of Venezuelans. Civil society organizations also build bridges between the migrant and refugee society and host society. They generate dialogue, and they strongly fight in the local press to the news to be more objective, because the content in media is in many cases quite discriminatory. So civil society organizations are really helpful in this case. Specifically, migrant-based organizations, so those that were built from scratch by Venezuelans, are relevant because they know exactly what are the needs and challenges that that Venezuelans are facing. They can understand more precisely and propose better solutions. They are also fighting for the rights of Venezuelan population directly. When it comes to plans for the future, because we also were very interested in seeing what will happen next, we saw that the aspirations to stay in Peru are lower than before. So this is a data, official data from NPOVE, which is this comprehensive survey. And we saw the decline from 94% to 75% among the people who intend to stay. Here are some quotes of the people about the future, about staying or remaining or going further. The vast majority really envision their future in Venezuela. However, you may not be very familiar with the situation. The president, Nicolas Maduro, was elected just a few months ago for the president. The transparency of all the process of election was really contested in the international arena. We are not very sure if the process of election was very transparent, but as a result, he was elected, and we see the continuity of certain approaches in his government. So even though many Venezuelans have aspirations to go back to their country, the most probably it just won't be possible. So we see many people in limbo. We see many people that at least partially integrated in Peru. However, emotionally, they're still attached to their country. We see some examples of individuals, and it doesn't depend, it's very interesting, it doesn't necessarily depend on the time, how much time they're spent in Peru. Some individuals already have this transnational orientation. They want to establish some kind of professional activity in both countries. They want to bring their family, whether it's possible, or to travel among these two countries. And there are each time more individuals with this aspiration to go further. In many cases, it's to go to the US, to Canada, but also one more time, as we are all aware, the administration of the President Trump is not really willing to open the country towards many foreigners. So the aspirations of people are there. However, to be honest, it seems it's going to be difficult to fulfill them. So we've got, as a consequence, many people in limbo. So in order to conclude, I hope I didn't take too much time. This is a topic that really I was investigating during the last 6-7 years or so. So I could continue talking about this a long time, but I know that we don't have that long time. So just in order to wrap up, just in order to conclude, we saw that there are many barriers and challenges for the successful integration of Venezuelan population in Peru. We've got unstable political situation. We've got lack of continuity of policy responses. We've got also systemic limitations in the developing country that's in many cases struggles to satisfy the needs of its own citizens. And of course, it's even more difficult with the influx, unprecedented influx of foreigners. And also another challenge is discrimination, xenophobia. But in all this difficult situation, individuals show that they can cope, they have adaptation strategies, they use the migration network, they are supported by governmental and mostly non-governmental actors. They go for entrepreneurship, they continue fighting for the dignity. So we can see some progress in the case of integration, and we can see how much of successful integration really is depending on political will, is depending on government, but also non-governmental actors that are crucial. Okay, so thank you so much for your attention. I hope it was interesting for you, these insights. If you would like to contact me, you can contact through this email. And well, you're welcome to ask any questions. I will be very happy to answer if there are any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Agnieszka. Very, very helpful and very rich. I think
Sorry, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very rich. Can you hear me now? Hello, yeah. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Can you hear me now?
I can hear little bit. Yes, it's very low, but I will try to
Okay, thank you.
catch the ideas.
Yeah, okay. Agnieszka, thank you so much. It was very rich and very powerful presentations. I'm sure that now there are questions to be delivered by the audience here. And also through Zoom, yeah, we have a question through Zoom, but I think I will first let the audience here to give the questions. Please raise your hand, please, and you can come here. Okay, come forward here. Or yeah, yeah.
Okay, can you hear my voice?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for the time. ¿Tú hablas español?
Sí, sí, por supuesto.
Ya, yo hablo español, pero un poco.
Excelente.
Sí. Mi nombre es Hilmi Ahmed. Normalmente me llaman Hilmi o Jimmy. Sí, no me esperes demasiado, but so I will speak in English. Just the opening. So regarding about your about our topic right now. So as we've just seen before. That's this. As we know that the Venezuelan refugees crisis has seen over 7 million, and it's displaced globally, and in Colombia, hosting more than like 2.5 million. We know that, and question is, considering the rise of xenophobic sentiments in Colombia, about the Venezuelan migrants and refugees, because maybe it's fueled by a combination of it's fueled by a combination of cultural differences and something like that. So how can governments and social societies effectively combat misinformation and also to foster social cohesion between refugees and host population. Thank you. That's all from me. Muchas gracias.
Excelente, muchas gracias. But I will answer also in English because I think it's the language of the majority of the audience. Thank you so much. It's very good question. And indeed, the problem with misinformation spread by media, the problem with discrimination discourses, narratives spread by media is relevant. And I know it's not just a problem in Peru. but also in other host countries, after the very open beginning and very open approach in policies, but also in media. I remember I was living in Peru in that times in 2014 when the crisis started. 2018 we had that top of the individuals that entered the country. So at the beginning, the responses were very positive. People were curious about newcomers. People were curious about this new culture, even though, you know, there are many people who are surprised. There are, for sure, they say not many cultural differences. It's not true. These people share the language. Yes, it's Spanish, both for Peruvians and for Venezuelans, and the majority of the continent, with some exceptions, notable Brazil, for instance. But the language, it's not enough. Culturally, they're different. One of the big differences is that Peruvians, as the Andean culture, they are much more vertical in their approach. And how do you see this verticality? For instance, in the labor context, there is much more respect shown towards the bosses, towards people who are higher in the professional ladder. While in the case of Venezuelan culture is Caribbean culture. It's much more horizontal culture. It's much more direct culture. I would say it's much more similar to many European cultures as well, where people are very direct. They, not depending on the formal rank, communicate directly. So it created a big clash between these cultural groups. In many cases, Venezuelans are seen as too direct, too open. And of course, with time, it started to be a problem. So this discrimination wasn't there from the very beginning. I would say that it developed with time when people started to feel uncomfortable. Now, after so many years, when we talk with Peruvian people and with Venezuelan people, we can see that the integration is actually each time more successful. So it was like a curve. It was good at the beginning. There was a lot of interest and openness. Then we saw this decline with growing discrimination practices, with the narrative from the politicians and from the media that was negative. And now with time, we can see that the situation is improving. And well, answering directly also to your question, what to do. I think that the governmental institutions, governmental representatives, functionaries, they need to be very, very conscious about the situation. We need technocrats also in the government that will take the input from the experts, will take the input from the scholars and understand how much potential we have right now in the country. We were talking about this brain waste. So many very well prepared people who could support the economy, starting with this. Then introducing initiatives. Some of them I was mentioning, for instance, situations in which there are common events in which people cook together. It's a very easy example, but we can think about broader programs in which children, for instance, at schools can participate in this kind of activities, classes about both cultures, classes about the history of both countries. And I think also the history is a key point here, because if you think about the history of Venezuela in the years 1950s, 60s, it was actually one of the richest countries in the region. So this was actually the country that was absorbing migrants and also refugees in some cases for decades. It was a very strong country, an open country towards foreigners. And we cannot forget about this. So as in many cases in life, the situation switched completely. So from the country that was open, that was a country of immigration, now Venezuela became a country of emigration. And on the other hand, many Peruvians that were emigrating during the time of terrorism, for instance, in Peru. So we talk about the years 70s, 80s of the last decade in Peru. Many of them actually emigrated to Venezuela. So now, if we really think about the history, if we, as a government and the society, are able to remember that part of the history, I think it would also allow people to be more open and to remember once we needed help. So we went to Venezuela, we established our families, our businesses, we survived. Many of Peruvians remained there, many came back, but now it's also time to give back. So I think that these aspects that need to come simultaneously from government and also non-governmental organizations and civil society at large are crucial here for the successful integration. I hope it answers your question.
Thank you, señora.
Muchas gracias. I'm not sure if someone is asking the question because I really don't hear now.
The challenges. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What challenges do Venezuelan refugee children face in accessing quality education in their host countries? Given the difficulty of housing and access to the health care, and how can these children continue to be supported to thrive in obtaining a good education, and what steps can be taken to support their learning and integrations? And are international organizations active in upholding these rights? Okay, maybe you please answer first.
Okay, thank you so much for this question. This is also very useful question and good question. In the case of children who are in a school age, we saw many cases, unfortunately, of children that weren't able to enter the educational system. One is because they come to Peru in different times of the year. Because of course, if we talk about forced migration, we talk about people who didn't really choose, didn't really plan or strategize when it comes to the migration process. So many of them come in different moments of the year, and not necessarily they are able to enter the educational system right away. So in some cases, it may be half a year, it may be even a longer time that they are not able to enter. So of course, it's a huge loss for these children. Now, in the context of developing country, as it is Peru, we have many schools that do not have capacity to absorb children from Venezuela. So there are overcrowding conditions. There is a lack of professors. However, there were many attempts to fulfill the right of all children to access the education, especially as it is absolutely needed in a basic level, in the case of basic education. So we see also initiatives, governmental initiatives, but many initiatives from intergovernmental and international organizations that are focused on international development that allow for these children to study. We, during these years, saw opening of a new schools, opening of a new facilities, for instance, in order to ensure the access for the education of all. We also heard during our interviews about the programs at schools that allow children to participate more fully in the education. So not just to be assimilated in the Peruvian culture, not just to be assimilated in a Peruvian educational system, but also to be able to show their own culture, to talk about their own history and their own practices. So I think it's very important here, because if we think about integration, as I was trying to signalize and mention in the presentation, it always needs to be a two-way process. So instead of just merely talking about assimilation, I think that there are some attempts for the integration. And when it comes to children, those are basically these spaces of the schools where they are able to exchange with their peers, to gain support. So I think that the role of intergovernmental organizations, UNICEF, for instance, that comes to the country, not only with the funding, of course, money is very important, but it comes with the expertise. It comes with the information on how this kind of programs were implemented also in other realities, in other countries. And with a little bit of political will, they are really able to enter with their resources, both knowledge, information, and financial resources to enter the country and to help. So we have examples of the programs from the UNICEF, UNDP also, IOM, UNHCR are introducing initiatives to help the children. And one more aspect that I think is relevant, with the time, we have already mixed families. So we have families that are composed by Venezuelans and Peruvians, and we have children that are born from these families in Peru. So also growing community of mixed citizens that I think is also very helpful in this case, in the case of integration. So we can see this direct integration from the very beginning, from the age of children. I hope that it also answers your question. Yasmin, thank you for your question.
Thank you so much, Agnieszka. So, I mean, like, we run out of time, and I'm sure that there's still audiences who want to give questions to you. And there are a lot of things have been learned by my students and my colleagues here, and I'm sure that even though there are some like weaknesses, but we have learned on how I mean the system has been like built in the Peru, and I think the most crucial things is about the self the self reliance of the refugees who can like stay, I mean, by on their own ways, and this can also like help them to be here, to be still be in Peru, reintegrate with the societies. So I think I will. Can you hear me, Agnieszka?
Yes, I hear, but it's very, very low. So I put a lot of attention, but don't worry, I hear something.
Okay, sorry. Sorry for the technical problems we had.
No, don't worry. Everywhere it's like this. And anyway, I think that we were able to provide the speech and to answer some questions. If there are any other questions, I will be also happy to answer.
Okay. So again, so there are a lot of things, have been given to you, and it enrich our, kind of knowledge on your research. And then also one thing for sure that regarding the integration of the refugees, they are, Venezuela and Peru in this case still in advance compared to us, and there are some kind of weakness, but we still have like see kind of good things that you have, for examples on how the individual can self-reliance in their daily lives, and they, even though the access of works still be limited, but this is one good things that we don't have at all here. And I think the political wills of the governments, as you said, that it become a key factors that can also be kind of a factor that can make people more integrate to the in Peru. Again, we are very grateful to have you here. Gracias, and I will give the MC to close this conference, and we do hope that next time you can like come around here and and to our university. And I'm quite surprised that my student can speak Spanish. So next time, I think he will also. Okay, please.
It's true, wonderful. Thank you one more time.
Please, MC, you can continue your.
Okay, thank you for Miss Agnieszka, who shared their knowledge at today's public lecture, and to all the attendees who followed the entire event.
Moving on to the next agenda, we have the certificate awarding for our speakers.
So we invite Dean to like give, formally to grant the certificate to Agnes.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Agnes, for your contribution and meaningful presentation. Your contribution is very important for us because our country, Indonesia, face the refugees no from the several country. Yeah. And see you again in the next time for the another time, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. And give applause to our speakers here from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much one more time for the invitation, for your trust. I was in Indonesia a few months ago. It's a wonderful country. I was very surprised by the warmth of its people, and I will definitely go back. It's a beautiful country.
Okay.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much again, gracias. And okay, so again, thank you so much. We don't have anything, to give, just only certificate. But I hope that you can go back again to us and in offline, not online. Okay.
Definitely, I will be very happy to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so now it's time to close. I will ask the audiences to fill the forms. We gave the forms through the Zoom. Okay, just please fill out the forms and also the barcodes later on. Okay, so I will give again the floor to the MC. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can scan the barcode that's shown here to fill the form and make the attendees for this event. Okay, we have come to the end of today's event. On behalf of the organizing committee, we sincerely thank you for your participation and enthusiasm. I, Rangga Satrianamta Putra, along with my co-host, as the Masters of Ceremony, would like to extend our gratitude for your participation. We sincerely apologize for any mistake during our role as Masters of Ceremony. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you so much again. you. See you in the next events. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, and I will disconnect. Have a great day. Bye-bye.